I had been engaged to the woman for 3 long years, and for the vast majority of that time, she had treated me like I didn't exist, giving me the silent treatment while the world watched. Then, at the most important social gathering of the decade in New York, she decided to publicly propose to her first love. Later that night, I posted a very simple, pleasant update to my social media page that just said, "Getting married soon." She called me late that night, her voice sharp, telling me, "Julian, I never said I was going to marry you." I replied just as pleasantly, "And I never said the bride was going to be you." After that exchange, a series of photographs made their way onto the internet, shocking everyone in the city. The images showed the most influential woman in New York with her arms open wide, throwing herself into an embrace with me, tilting her head back to let me kiss her. When I first stood up that evening, my suit was pressed and ready. The stylist looked at me and lowered his voice, telling me that I looked incredibly handsome in the outfit. I thanked him quietly and pushed open the door, only to find a chaotic scene unfolding downstairs. Standing in the middle of the grand, gold-framed revolving door was Camilla, the woman I had been engaged to for 3 years. She was standing there publicly holding onto the arm of a very handsome young man. The most ridiculous part of the whole thing was that he was wearing the exact same suit as me. Tonight was a gala unlike anything New York had seen in 20 or 30 years. Everyone in attendance was at the very top of the social ladder. They were sharp, observant, and noticed every tiny detail. Naturally, they could tell in a single glance that the suit I was wearing was just a high-quality imitation. It was the first time in my 21 years of life that I had ever been dressed up so extravagantly. It turned out that I was just meant to be the best-dressed joke in the room. "Camilla, who is this with you?" someone asked, breaking the awkward silence. Camilla squeezed the hand of the man standing next to her. "This is my boyfriend, Ryan, but after tonight he will be my fiancé." The person asked, "Then what about Mr. Blackwood?" Camilla looked at me with eyes that held no warmth at all. "The engagement between my family and the Blackwood family has been terminated. For the past 3 years, the Whitmores have done more than enough for the Blackwoods." She wasn't lying. The couple. If it hadn't been for the $10 million engagement gift they gave us back then, the Blackwood family business would have collapsed long ago. That money was the only reason my parents and siblings could continue their expensive way of living. Camilla picked up a microphone, pulled out a very expensive watch she had brought with her, and made a passionate proposal speech to Ryan. His eyes filled with tears, and he shook with excitement as Camilla pulled him into her arms. She gently wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, whispering to him and kissing him. I stood there and watched as Ryan was immediately surrounded by all the socialites and heirs who were now eager to talk to him. After tonight, he wouldn't be just some unknown model or the other man people whispered about. And as for me, Julian Blackwood, my family and I would likely have no place left in this city. "Excuse me, can you move?" a voice said from behind me. I turned around to see 2 men who looked like wealthy heirs holding plates of food, looking at me with impatience. I stepped out of their way. "His suit looks so cheap," one of them said. "I know, right? Who knows what kind of material they use for those knockoffs? I'd probably get a rash if I touched it," the other replied. "The nerve of him still standing here. How embarrassing." My face remained blank as I walked toward the lounge area in the corner, acting as if I hadn't heard their cruel comments. My phone rang, and I answered it. My father's voice, full of shame and anger, came through the speaker. "Julian, the Whitmores are calling off the wedding. They want $5 million of the dowry back." "You couldn't even keep one woman for 3 years. You are useless. Find the $5 million yourself. The family isn't giving you a single dime." I stared at the screen after the call ended, my chest feeling so tight I could barely get a breath in. The bright lights and the beautiful crowd felt like they had nothing to do with me. I just wanted to get away. "I heard Miss Sterling came back to the city yesterday. She might be at the gala tonight," someone said nearby. "Unlikely. Miss Sterling almost never goes to events like this," another person replied. True. The last time she was seen in public was on a major news interview. I grabbed at my chest as a dull ache began to throb. I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket for my medication. The rustling sound startled the two people talking, and they stopped their conversation and walked away. The pain in my chest became sharp, turning into spasms. The fitted suit felt like it was suffocating me. I couldn't focus enough to find my pills anymore. I needed to unbutton my shirt to take a deep breath, but I tried several times and couldn't make my fingers work. My father's stylist had given me a new pair of cufflinks that day. They were beautiful, but in this critical moment, my fingers were stiff with panic, and I couldn't get them undone. I tilted my head back, gasping for air. My hair was wet with cold sweat, and my lips were turning a pale gray color. Not far away, the party was just getting into full swing. My ex-fiancée and her new love were probably dancing, and I might just die quietly right here on this silent deck. Miss Sterling, are you going inside now? Isolde Sterling didn't answer. She simply took the cigarette case her male assistant offered her. She pulled out a thin, gray cigarette and opened a small, fancy box. She didn't light the cigarette immediately, but dipped the tip into a fine, dark yellow powder. After tapping the cigarette lightly, she signaled to her assistant, who quickly offered a lighter, and Isolde lit her cigarette. You all go ahead. I'm going to finish this, she said. With that, Isolde Sterling walked a few steps toward the railing of the deck. It's windy out here. Please be careful, the assistant said before the crowd that had been surrounding her walked away. Returning to the city this time, Isolde was ready to solidify her power. From now on, in all of New York, her word would be final. The organizer of tonight's gala had done everything possible just to get her to show up. She hadn't been very interested, but the moment she returned, her older relatives had started bothering her about marriage, giving her a headache. So she decided to use this event as an excuse to get some peace and quiet. But she was only halfway through her cigarette when she noticed a thin, somewhat shaky figure in the distance. She had the urge to put out her cigarette and leave, but then she heard a heavy thud on the deck. Isolde turned her head slowly. In the dim light of the moon, the figure had collapsed on the deck, looking broken in a way that seemed strange for a man. My face must have been a ghostly white color, starved of oxygen. The faint moonlight made my expression look distorted, stripping away any good looks I might have had. I looked at the stranger in front of me, as if she were my only hope. I grabbed her sleeve tightly. The desire to live gave me strength I didn't know I had. I managed to pull her arm and press it against my chest. My breathing was terrifyingly fast, and my heart rate was completely all over the place. She took one look at me and seemed to understand what was happening. She knelt on one knee, her long, thin fingers closing around my wrist. "Where are your shirt buttons?" she asked, her voice low and steady. I couldn't speak. I struggled to grab her hand again and press it to my chest. Her eyebrows came together slightly. She moved my hand and looked down at my collar. A moment later, her fingers undid the complicated row of buttons. I felt a sudden sense of relief as the tightness around my chest and lungs disappeared. Air rushed in, and I gasped for breath greedily. But I had completely forgotten that because of my long-term heart condition, I had a medical monitoring patch stuck to my chest. Now, with my shirt wide open, it was all exposed for her to see. My senses started coming back to me. I bit my lip for a long moment before blushing and looking up, whispering my thanks. "Thank you." "Can you stand?" she asked. I nodded. Holding my jacket with one hand and the railing with the other, I managed to get back on my feet. "Should I call your family or a friend for you?" she asked. I quickly shook my head. "No, that's not necessary. I'll be fine after a little rest." Her phone suddenly rang. I saw her step aside to answer it. "I told you I have my own plans for marriage. Relax. I won't let Grandma pass away with regrets." She seemed annoyed and lit another cigarette. The glowing tip lit up her cool, elegant side profile. I suddenly felt like I had seen her somewhere before. Just then, she turned her head, her eyes meeting mine. I quickly looked down. She put her phone away and walked toward me. The smoke from her cigarette was a bit strong, and I coughed uncomfortably a few times. Sorry, she said, putting out the cigarette. She gestured to my suit. Just give the jacket to a server. My face turned red again immediately. I nodded, whispering, okay? Her gaze fell to my fingers. I was still tightly holding the lapels of her jacket. My shirt was open underneath, my chest bare except for the medical patch. It was a level of intimacy that no one but me was aware of. I hunched my shoulders slightly, feeling self-conscious. Just as she was about to turn and leave, I spoke in a low voice. I heard your phone call just now. Could I make a deal with you? I dared to lift my eyes and look at her. Maybe she needed a husband who wouldn't be a hassle and who could disappear at any time. And I needed $5 million to buy my freedom. A deal? What kind of deal do you want to make with me, Mr. Blackwood? I was so nervous I didn't even notice she knew my name. Do you need a husband? I gathered all my courage and looked her straight in the eye. I won't cause you any trouble. I will cooperate with you in every possible way. And of course, when you don't need me anymore, I will never bother you. She looked at me in the moonlight, her silver dress fitting her tall frame perfectly. Her face was sharp and beautiful, her presence cool and distant. I saw the custom-made watch on her wrist, which probably cost more than the luxury yacht we were standing on. What are your terms? I froze for a second, then spoke slowly, my voice thick with shame. I need $5 million. What for? She asked. I lowered my gaze, unable to meet her eyes. But in front of a stranger, it seemed easier to reveal my own desperation. My fiancé is breaking off the engagement. I have to return half of the dowry, $5 million. I don't have it. Breaking off the engagement? She suddenly looked at me, her gaze incredibly sharp. Yes, breaking it off. I let out a small, bitter laugh and lifted my face. The sea breeze blew through my hair. I stared blankly into the night. I have no other options, ma'am. I accept the deal, but I have one condition. I looked at her, my eyes wide with disbelief. Ma'am? We get married within 3 days. That's so fast. You heard my call. My grandmother isn't well. She's anxious to see her granddaughter's husband. After she spoke, she raised an eyebrow at me. Is that a problem? I quickly shook my head. No, not at all. It's fine. Then it's settled. The wind was picking up. She suddenly took a step forward. I'll have someone pick you up the day after tomorrow. But how do you know where I... She didn't answer my question. As she pulled her hand back, her fingertips seemed to brush against my cheek. Or maybe it was just my imagination. She was gone for a long time, but I was still trapped in a dreamlike state. Until a slightly drunk Camilla suddenly walked over and grabbed my wrist. Julian, for 3 years I waited for you to bow your head and beg me. Why, if you were just willing to be submissive like all those other men, I would have given your family not just 10 million, but 100 million. You're drunk, Camilla, I said, trying to push her away, but a drunk person is notoriously difficult to handle. Her eyes were red as she stared at me. Then her gaze fixed on the suit I was wearing. Whose clothes are you wearing? It's none of your business, Camilla. None of my business? Her beautiful face twisted in a sneer. Julian Blackwood, I'd like to see who dares to touch my man. She grabbed the jacket I was wearing and yanked it open. I tried to hold it closed, but it was useless. The sea wind howled, and under the moonlight, my bare chest was completely exposed. Julian, Camilla whispered, stunned. The next second, a male voice rang out. Julian, have you no shame? Oh my God. How could he strip down to seduce someone else's fiancée? Look at Miss Whitmore. She's mesmerized. Ryan, you need to learn a thing or two from him. I snapped back to reality, frantically trying to cover myself. But Ryan was already charging at me, shouting and swinging a fist at my face. What is going on here? A cool, level female voice suddenly cut through the chaos. Ryan's fist stopped in mid-air. A second later, Camilla pulled him aside. I quickly took a step back, raising my arms to shield my chest. Hearing the voice, everyone turned. Someone gasped. It's Miss Sterling. Which Miss Sterling? Who else could it be? It's Isolde Sterling. My eyes slowly widened as I looked past the crowd at Isolde. The woman on the deck who had unbuttoned my shirt. the woman I had boldly offered to marry for $5 million. She was the famous Isolde Sterling. Isolde only glanced at me before looking away. Then she turned to her assistant and said something. The assistant immediately moved through the crowd and came to my side. "Mr. Blackwood, let me take you downstairs to rest." I nodded stiffly and thanked him. As he helped me leave, I couldn't resist looking back. The crowd had quietly parted, everyone standing respectfully. "Miss Sterling, this is a misunderstanding," Camilla, now mostly sober, was explaining cautiously. "What misunderstanding?" Isolde's voice was still calm, showing no signs of anger. I paused, standing around the corner. Her assistant didn't rush me, waiting patiently. Camilla's voice trembled slightly. "I brought Ryan here. He's my boyfriend. He must have misunderstood and lost his composure." Isolde's eyes grew stern. I find it hard to believe that any gentleman in New York society today would behave with such a lack of manners. Camilla was horrified. Ryan looked so ashamed he was on the verge of tears. Isolde instructed her staff, "Escort this gentleman off the ship." "Camilla!" Ryan cried, clinging to her sleeve, refusing to let go. Having been in this social circle for years, he knew exactly how serious this was. Being kicked off the ship like this would be all over the city by morning. He would become a laughingstock with no chance of recovery. "Miss Sterling, Ryan knows he was wrong. Please give him another chance." Isolde gave her a flat look. "Miss Whitmore is more than welcome to leave with him." Camilla shut her mouth and pulled her hand back. Ryan was quickly escorted off the ship. The others on the deck quietly walked away. No one had expected the drama to end like this. "Mr. Blackwood?" The assistant's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. I turned in surprise. Isolde was walking toward me. She waved her assistant away and asked me in a warm voice, "Julian, are you scared?" I shook my head, stunned. No. Let me take you back to rest." Isolde raised her hand and gently took my wrist. "Is that okay?" My head was spinning. I nodded numbly and let her lead me away. "Let's go." The hallway wasn't long, and we soon reached a private lounge. She saw me inside and then left to handle her own business. I sat alone in the quiet room for a long while before I finally calmed down. But only after calming down did I realize something. At first, Isolde had called me Mr. Blackwood, but just now she called me Julian. She knew my name. She knew who I was. Her assistant brought a new set of clothes. I took a shower and changed. I folded Isolde's suit jacket and placed it in a bag. I wanted to have it dry cleaned before returning it to her. "Miss Sterling instructed me to personally escort you home, Mr. Blackwood, should you wish to leave." The assistant looked to be in his 30s and was very professional. "Could you please also tell Miss Sterling that I'm taking her jacket to have it dry cleaned first?" "That's not necessary, Mr. Blackwood. You can just give it to me." I didn't argue. I handed him the bag and asked as if casually, "How does your boss know my name?" The assistant just smiled. "That is Miss Sterling's private business." As I got off the boat, I received a text from an unknown number. "Julian, this is Isolde Sterling. Tarsam. Save my number." I stared at the message for a while before finally pressing my lips together and replying, "Okay, saved. I'll pick you up the day after tomorrow. Get some rest." "Okay." She didn't text again. It was late when I got back to the Blackwood residence, but no one was asleep. The lights were all on, but the atmosphere was heavy. Seeing me walk in, my father immediately stood up. "Julian, have you figured out what to do? What on earth did you do? How did you make Miss Whitmore so angry that she wants to call off the wedding?" "Yeah, Julian. Don't you know our family's business depends on the Whitmores to stay afloat? $5 million. Where are we going to get that kind of money now? Your sister-in-law is about to have her third child. Are you trying to kill us?" Everyone was blaming me. Blaming me for not being able to hold on to Camilla, for not marrying into her family successfully so they could continue to drain me dry. But when they pushed me, their sickly eldest son, forward to save their healthy second son, did they ever ask if I was willing? When they used the Whitmores' $10 million gift to cover their losses and maintain their luxurious lifestyle, did I ever see a penny of it? Now that the Whitmores wanted to call it off, they wouldn't contribute a cent of the $5 million, and they expected me to bear it all. Fine, I was willing to bear it. But after this, I would no longer be a member of the Blackwood family. Julian, say something. My sister-in-law stood up and gave me a light, annoyed push. The $5 million, I've found a way. You really have a way? I saw my father's eyes light up instantly. It just might damage the Blackwood family name? What do you mean by that? I gave a very faint smile. At the gala tonight, I met a wealthy businesswoman from overseas. When she heard about my problem, she offered to pay the $5 million for me. However, she has a husband and children, so I can only be her kept man. I had no other choice, so I agreed. But this means we'll be seen together, and our relationship won't stay a secret for long. How could you do something so shameless? Exactly. The Blackwoods are a respectable family with a long history. If you become a kept man, you'll disgrace us for generations to come. Then what do you suggest? Why don't you sell off some of your assets and give the $5 million to the Whitmores? No one answered. The room fell silent. Julian, my mother, who hadn't spoken, finally said, the Whitmores' $5 million must be paid, and the Blackwood family's honor cannot be ruined. I let out a deliberate, cold laugh. Then you might as well just disown me. My sister-in-law clutched her stomach and muttered, finally, you get the picture. Here was the plan my mother finally decided on. The Blackwood family would place an ad in the papers announcing they were cutting ties with me, but it would just be a public formality. I would still be their son, and they wouldn't truly disown me. Of course, I knew this was just a trick to keep me quiet. The moment the $5 million was delivered to the Whitmores, I'd be thrown out on the street. But they didn't know that was exactly what I wanted. At 9 o'clock the next morning, I got a call from Isolde Sterling. Julian, check your notifications. The transfer should have gone through. I quickly opened my messages. Sure enough, the deposit had been made 10 minutes ago. I got it. I'm going to handle the engagement cancellation today. I'll have my driver pick you up. Isolde, can I ask you for a favor? Go ahead. Can we not let anyone else know we're getting married for now? I didn't want my family of greedy vampires latching onto Isolde and causing her unnecessary trouble. You don't want people to know? Not forever, just for now. Is that okay? Fine. I'll have someone else pick you up then. Once the $5 million was returned to Camilla and the Blackwood family publicly disowned me, I would fully cooperate with whatever Isolde wanted, whether it was a public marriage or a secret one. By then, because I'd already been disowned, my family wouldn't be able to bother her in any way. After wiring the money to Camilla's account, I took a screenshot of the confirmation. When Camilla's call came, I was looking at the small classifieds section of the newspaper where I found my family's statement cutting ties with me. I stared at those few lines of text, reading them over and over. Then I took a photo of it and carefully folded the newspaper away. Camilla's voice was hoarse. Julian, where did you get the money? $5 million is no small amount. The Blackwood family couldn't afford it. Who gave it to you? Tell me. That's none of your business. You got your money. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. I was about to hang up, but Camilla suddenly called my name. Julian, do you really think this was about the $5 million? Whatever it was about, it has nothing to do with me anymore. Julian, you should know, if I don't give the word, no woman in this city will dare to have you. I let out a small laugh. Is that so? If you don't believe me, you can try. I didn't want to waste any more words on her and hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I was about to block the number when I saw 3 words on the screen. Isolde Sterling. The Blackwood family is disowning you? How did you know? I was surprised. Her information network was incredibly fast. Julian? Yes? If you're hurting, you don't have to pretend you're not. I really hadn't wanted to cry. I honestly hadn't. Growing up, I had gotten used to it. So used to it that I was numb. I wasn't hurting, But when someone shows you kindness, you always become more fragile. So when I spoke, my voice was already thick with tears. Julian, you can cry in front of me. After all, starting tomorrow, I'll be your wife. The tears finally fell. But before you become my wife, I've given you another identity. What identity? I explained in a quiet, timid voice. Isolde was silent for half a minute before she finally spoke. So, my current identity is a 60-year-old, married, wealthy businesswoman, and you are my kept man? Are you mad? Over the phone, I heard what sounded like a soft sigh. Julian, I'll see you tomorrow. Are you still going to marry me? I could clearly tell she was a little unhappy just now. Get a good rest tonight, and wear your most handsome suit tomorrow. Isolde must have made all the arrangements in advance. The entire process of getting our marriage license was incredibly fast. Once we had the certificate, Isolde took me to the hospital. She held my hand the entire time, which made us look like a very affectionate couple. Her grandmother was very ill. She could only manage a weak smile at me, but her eyes held a look of relief. I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. To deceive a dying old woman like this. She must love her exceptional granddaughter very much, hoping she would have a happy marriage. But she had no idea that I wasn't really Isolde's husband. After leaving the hospital, Isolde had an important meeting, so she had her driver take me to get my luggage. The driver was a veteran who had worked for the Sterling family for years and had watched Isolde grow up. His hair was white, but he was still full of energy when my family saw him get out of the car and open the door for me. They all assumed he worked for my benefactor. They looked down on me for my new status as a kept man, so no one spoke to me. I came downstairs with my suitcase. Only my mother said a few words to me. This is just a temporary measure. You'll move out for a while. Julian, once this blows over, we'll bring you back home. I deliberately asked in a pitiful tone. How long will I have to wait? It depends on the situation. Then you have to keep your word. Don't worry. As I dragged my suitcase away, I could feel a strong sense of relief from everyone in the Blackwood family. The driver took me to Isolde's private residence. The house wasn't enormous, but the surroundings were incredibly peaceful. There weren't swarms of maids and servants, which made me feel much more relaxed. Sir, miss. Sterling instructed that you should make yourself at home. She will be back tonight. But at 8 o'clock, I got a call from Isolde. She had to go out of state for a very important meeting and would probably be back in about a week. If you get bored, go out with friends, go shopping, have some tea. Don't just coop yourself up at home all day. Then I'll go stay at my small apartment for a few days. It's close to Midtown, so everything is convenient. Okay, I'll pick you up there when I get back. Okay? On the third day of Isolde's business trip, a fellow volunteer from my charity work called me. He invited me to a small charity auction for the elite circle. I was very interested in the theme, a fundraiser for children with congenital heart disease. When I arrived, I saw a lot of familiar faces. Among them was Ryan. Though he was still dressed perfectly, he looked pale and unwell. It seemed that being kicked off the yacht that day had affected him more than I'd imagined. Ryan saw me too, but he just gave a scornful laugh and turned to talk to the person next to him. Is it true? He became a kept man? Of course it's true. His parents were so ashamed they disowned him in the papers. Didn't you see it? I heard his sugar mama is almost 80, old enough to be his grandmother. Oh my God, how can they invite someone like that to a charity event? Yeah, we shouldn't be at an event with someone like him. Let's ask him to leave. The scene grew chaotic. The friend who invited me looked extremely embarrassed. Julian, maybe you should come back another time. I didn't want to make things difficult for him, so I stood up to leave. Echut! But just as I reached the door, I ran into Camilla. Julian! I ignored her and kept walking, but Camilla grabbed my wrist. Are you here to see me? I pulled my hand away. No, I just heard about your situation today. Camilla blocked my path again. Julian, give the money back. Why? I couldn't help but sneer. Isn't 5 million what you wanted? Julian. Camilla's face darkened. I told you, If you just submit to me once. Submit how? I pushed her away again. You'll want me to kneel at your feet like a dog and thank you for your charity? It was laughable. No one knew that the seemingly perfect Miss Whitmore's favorite private pastime was using her money and power to degrade people. My life wasn't worth much, but I wasn't willing to grovel and be humiliated like that. Julian, your reputation is in ruins. You need to think about the consequences of your actions. Camilla changed the subject. You're so young. Becoming a kept man, your reputation is ruined for life. That's my choice. Julian, I'm offering you a way out. Is that so? I don't need it. I walked around her and continued towards the exit. Camilla's voice was low behind me. Julian, I'm only giving you one chance. When you've thought it through, come find me. I didn't look back. But that night I got a call from my landlord. He ordered me to move out immediately. I didn't argue with him. I just packed my things and went downstairs. I never expected to see Isolda's car waiting for me. The driver got out and took my suitcase. Sir, Miss Sterling sent me to pick you up. Isolda, is she back? Miss Sterling's flight gets in tomorrow morning. My eyes suddenly started to burn. Is she done with her work? She was supposed to be gone for a week. This was only the 4th day. Miss Sterling was worried you were having a hard time. She was concerned. I'm fine. Her work is important. She shouldn't neglect it for me. I sat in the car, my mind a mess. I couldn't describe the complicated feeling. It was as if a pathetic wretch abandoned by the whole world had suddenly been given a gold mine. When we arrived at Isolda's place, I had just gotten back to my room when her call came through. Julian. Isolda's voice was still tinged with exhaustion. I suddenly felt incredibly ashamed. To escape my family, I had deliberately tarnished my own reputation. Her work was so demanding, and yet I was constantly causing her more trouble. If I had just stayed put at her house, none of this would have happened. Isolda, I'm sorry. Julian, Isolda said, a hint of resignation in her voice. I'm not blaming you. Never mind. We'll talk properly when I get back tomorrow. After I hung up, a friend request popped up in my messaging app. It was from Isolda. I accepted. Her feed had only one post from 3 days ago. It was a single photo, our marriage certificate. I couldn't see what the people commenting below had said. I could only see her 2 replies to a friend. Yep, married, and let me introduce you, my husband, Julian. That night I also posted something to my feed. Just 3 simple words. Getting married soon. A lot of people left comments, and a friend called me. When I picked up, it was Camilla's voice. What, you've thought it through? I said I'd give you a chance, but I never said I'd marry you. I couldn't help but laugh. And I never said the bride was you? You're going to marry that old hag? Julian, you'd rather debase yourself and be with a married woman. I hung up and blocked her number. That night it felt like my mind was full of 1,000 things. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I only drifted off as the sky was getting light. I didn't even know Isolda had come home. When I opened my eyes, I saw a figure emerge from the bathroom. I was so startled, I almost screamed. My heart nearly leaped out of my chest. It's me, Julian, it's Isolda, don't be afraid. I pressed a hand to my racing heart, my face still pale. Isolda pulled me into her arms, gently stroking my back. Breathe slowly, don't be nervous, relax. It's okay, Julian. I buried my face in her shoulder, and after a while, my breathing slowly returned to normal. I'm okay now, I whispered, my face blushing. I'm sorry I scared you. Isolda smoothed my messy hair. Why did you sleep so late? I had a little trouble sleeping last night. I felt a little awkward. My pajama pants were thin, and just now she had held me so tightly with only a thin layer of fabric between us. My face was burning up. I clutched the blanket, wanting to wrap myself in it, but that felt even more conspicuous. Just as I was wondering what to do, Isolda gently laid me back down. Sleep a little longer. It's almost noon anyway, we can just have lunch. She very naturally pulled the thin blanket over me. I'm going to the study for a bit. I'll come get you later. As I watched her leave, I let out a sigh of relief. It was fine during the day. She spent most of her time in the study, busy with work. But at 9 o'clock that night, she returned to the master bedroom and showed no signs of leaving. Honestly, I had thought about the possibility of marital duties. After all, I was the one who had promised to cooperate with all her needs. I watched Isolde come out of the bathroom. After a long hesitation, I finally asked softly, "Are you sleeping here tonight?" Isolde glanced at me, but didn't say anything. My mind raced. Maybe Isolde just needed a husband in name only. Maybe I had been overthinking it. I grabbed my pillow and got out of bed, testing the waters. "Well, I'll go sleep in the guest room." She still said nothing. I turned with my pillow and started walking. After a few steps, I felt arms wrap around me from behind. "Didn't you say you would fully cooperate with my needs?" Miss Sterling." My back was pressed against her chest. I could feel the warmth and curve of her body. I could feel her heart beating strong and steady. Her skin temperature seemed to be rising, and the heat made me dizzy. Isolde bent her head, her fingers brushing aside the hair at my neck. "Julian, you're my husband now." The kiss that followed was intermittent and broken. "Tell me if you feel uncomfortable anywhere." Isolde touched my flushed face, waiting until my heartbeat steadied before proceeding. There were several times I thought I was about to suffocate, but Isolde always managed to stop herself at just the right moment. I could feel her body trembling, her breathing growing rapid. My own heart was pounding just as fiercely, my own breath just as short. I was in distress, and she seemed to be in even greater distress than I was. "Julian," she murmured, her voice slightly hoarse. She leaned over and gently kissed my cheek. "Are you feeling better?" I shook my head, then nodded. My eyes were already hazy with a fog of desire. It was as if I was pushing her away, but it felt more like I was inviting her closer. Her eyes were filled with raw want. For one fleeting moment, I even had the illusion that Isolde Sterling was in love with me. "Julian, at the very end, I think I lost consciousness for a second. But it wasn't painful like when I had my attacks. Instead, my whole body felt like it was floating on a cloud, wrapped in its soft embrace, until Isolde gently woke me. "Julian, are you uncomfortable anywhere?" I shook my head again, simply reaching out to wrap my arms around her waist. It seems a man has a natural dependency on his first woman. "Rest for a bit. Then we'll take a shower." She said this as her fingers came to rest over my heart. "Does your chest hurt?" "It's okay." I thought about the times she had stopped mid-motion. I couldn't help but ask quietly, "Isolde, will you be uncomfortable?" She cradled my face and kissed me, her voice deep and husky. "If you keep asking, you're going to make me really uncomfortable. No more." "Okay, no more." But she didn't let go of me. "I just want to kiss my Julian." I stopped talking, obediently letting her kiss me. My mind was in a daze, but I had one clear thought. When she called me Julian, she sounded so incredibly fond of me. But a person as serious and self-disciplined as her would probably only call me that in bed. I never got a chance to test that theory because the next morning Isolde left early again. I knew she was extremely busy. Being in her position meant dealing with an endless stream of matters, big and small. So I stayed home obediently, trying my best not to cause her any more trouble. Even though I didn't go out, the days were extraordinarily peaceful and quiet. It was the first time in my 21 years that I had felt such serene contentment. I didn't have to worry about being sold off like a commodity by my family. I didn't have to grieve over my parents' and relatives' favoritism. I didn't have to think about anything. I could just do what made me happy. I even started playing the piano again, which I hadn't touched in years. This life of a homebody lasted for about a week. One afternoon, Isolde suddenly called and told me there was a banquet that night she wanted me to attend. She had already prepared a suit and a watch for me. Sian, and a team of stylists would be coming to the house shortly. "Will you be there tonight?" "I'll head straight there to meet you after I finish my work." "What kind of banquet is it? Is it absolutely necessary for me to go? It's a charity fundraising dinner for children with congenital heart disease. I thought you'd want to go. I was touched. The last charity event I'd tried to attend, the one where Ryan spread vicious rumors about me, had also been for children with heart disease. So Isolde had remembered. Because of my own heart condition, I had always been very passionate about this cause. I still remembered that after my engagement to Camilla, I had continued my monthly volunteer work without fail. I would visit the sick or disabled children at the orphanage, but Camilla had once sneered, "It ain't. You're quite skilled at putting on a show for reputation's sake." She didn't know that I wasn't doing it for show. It was simply because I had suffered the same way, and I wanted to help more children like me. "Isolde, of course I'm willing to go, but if you show up tonight, our situation won't be a secret anymore." I wanted to ask her if it would cause her any problems or have a negative impact. "Julian, from the very beginning, you were the one who wanted to keep it private, not me." "Isolde," I clutched the phone, murmuring in confusion. "I don't understand. Why? Why did she agree to my proposal? Why did she never think of hiding our marriage? Why, of all people, me?" "I'll answer you when we get home tonight." When I arrived at the banquet, I naturally attracted countless strange looks. What puzzled me, however, it was this. A charity gala that Isolde Sterling would attend was obviously a top-tier event. The Whitmores might have the status to be there, but the Blackwood family certainly did not. And yet there was Camilla, and my family was there too. When I walked in, the Blackwoods were clustered around Camilla, fawning over her. And my own blood brother, Ian, was looking at Camilla with an intense, admiring gaze. "Julian, you have the nerve to show your face here?" After Ian spoke in surprise, my father immediately walked over, his face grim. "Julian, do you have any idea what kind of event this is? You came here to embarrass yourself? What will people think of our family?" I looked at the stern-faced, middle-aged man before me, my heart completely devoid of feeling. "Didn't you already announce our separation in the papers?" "So I have no connection to the Blackwood family. If I embarrass myself, it has nothing to do with you." "But you're still a Blackwood. Everyone in New York knows you're my son." "Then what do you propose I do?" "Julian, you should leave New York. Have your sugar mama take you abroad or back to where she came from. Didn't Mom promise I could come back after things blew over?" My father looked at me as if I were an idiot. "What fantasy are you living in? You've already been removed from the Blackwood family registry." "Really?" "Of course it's real." "So you're saying that legally and genealogically, I have no relationship with the Blackwood family whatsoever?" "That's right." "Good." I turned to face the crowd. "I'm sure everyone heard what Mr. Blackwood just said." "Julian, you should just go. Why make a scene and lose all face?" Ian said, pretending to be the bigger person. "Miss Whitmore is here. Don't let her see this embarrassing spectacle." Just then, Camilla also spoke up. "Julian, didn't you say you were getting married?" "Miss Whitmore, her benefactor has a husband and kids overseas. She's got lovers all over the world. She'd never actually marry him. So your social media post that day was a lie." I was about to say something, but Camilla had already stepped forward and grabbed my arm. "Julian, I'm asking you one last time." Before she could finish, the ballroom suddenly fell silent. "Miss Sterling is here." "Why would Miss Sterling come to such a small banquet?" "How should I know? But tonight was worth it, getting to see the legend in person. Why is Miss Sterling coming this way? Oh my God." "Why is she looking in this direction? Is she looking at the eldest son of the Blackwood family?" Hearing these whispers, Ian's face flushed a deep red. My father's face also showed unconcealable delight. I turned to look at Isolde. She was wearing a black gown, looking serious and unapproachable. In that moment, I felt a sense of unreality. This woman whom I had only ever seen on television and in newspapers was now my wife. She had kissed me many times. She called me Julian. She was truly gentle with me, like a very, very good wife. "Julian," Isolde spoke. It was the first time she had called me by my first name in public, not Julian Blackwood, but the intimate, private Julian. The smile on Ian's face froze comically. My father was also stunned. Camilla looked utterly shocked. She walked through the crowd and came right up to me. "This suit fits you well. The cufflinks match you perfectly. You look very handsome." "Isolde—" In front of everyone, Isolde pulled me into her arms. There. I was only a few minutes late and you're already getting bullied." As she said the word bullied, her gaze swept lightly over the crowd. My father's face went pale. Ian instinctively hid behind him. Isolde's gaze finally landed on Camilla. "Miss Whitmore, what were you just chatting with my husband about?" The word husband from Isolde's lips was like a bomb going off. The dead silent crowd immediately broke into a controlled, buzzing murmur. Victoria, as if still in disbelief, asked haltingly, "Husband?" "Yes, Julian Blackwood is my husband." As soon as Isolde finished speaking, my father seemed to snap out of his shock. He rushed to my side and grabbed my arm affectionately. "Julian, my boy, such wonderful news! Why didn't you tell your father?" I pushed his hand away. "Mr. Blackwood, I am no longer part of your family." Mr. Blackwood froze, then quickly said, "What father and son don't have disagreements. It's just a misunderstanding we can talk through." I shook my head. "There's nothing to talk about. The Blackwood family and I have no connection. The family records prove it." My father was sweating heavily. He turned to Isolde with an eager look. "Miss Sterling, you see, our Julian is just being childish. He's still upset with me." I listened to my husband. Isolde put her arm around me, her voice cold. "Julian says he has no connection to the Blackwood family, so he has no connection." "Miss Sterling—" My father looked utterly heartbroken. "Mr. Blackwood?" Isolde suddenly spoke. "To my knowledge, the Blackwood family has not donated a single cent to charity in the last 10 years. At these words, my father broke into a cold sweat, trying to stammer out a defense but failing to form a single word. "So they've never donated a dime? Then why do they fight so hard to get into every charity gala?" "To build their reputation, obviously. How shameless." Unable to bear the humiliation, my father dragged Ian away in defeat. Isolde held me. "Julian, let's go home too." "We haven't donated to the children yet," I reminded her softly. Isolde bent down and kissed me. "My assistant took care of it." "Isolde, my heart. I don't think I can." In the dim room, I felt waves of dizziness. The familiar feeling of oxygen deprivation washed over me. I gripped her arm. Turning my head to gasp for air, Isolde pressed her forehead against mine. "Julian." I could feel how much she was struggling to hold back, and yet my own body was so infuriatingly weak. "Isolde, maybe you should find a healthy husband." "Julian Blackwood." Isolde's eyes held a rare seriousness. "There's no shortage of healthy men in the world. But the way I am, what's wrong with the way you are?" She brushed the sweat-soaked hair from my forehead. "Julian, in my eyes, you are the best." "Isolde, if your health is poor, we'll take care of it bit by bit. If Hong Kong can't fix it, we'll go to Boston or D.C., or we'll go abroad. And if it still can't be cured—" Isolde leaned down and kissed me gently. "Then I'll live a life of abstinence. It'll be a good chance to focus on my career." As the new year approached, Isolde finally had some free time. She took me to Boston, saying the best cardiac surgeons in the world were there. Now I was very nervous before the examination. "We'll do our part, and leave the rest to fate." Isolde habitually straightened my collar. "Go on. I'll be right here waiting for you." After all the detailed professional tests were done, the elderly specialist with a full head of white hair looked at me with a sigh. "I've reviewed your reports. Your case of congenital heart disease is not severe. If you had undergone timely surgery as a child, you would have been fully recovered long ago." I stared at the doctor in disbelief, shaking my head. "Doctor, are you mistaken? My whole life, my family told me my illness was incurable. They took me to so many hospitals, and they all said the same thing. Eventually, I refused to go to the hospital anymore. I couldn't bear to hear my own death sentence repeated over and over. They told me all they could do was spend money to carefully manage my health. that it was thanks to them I even survived to adulthood. When Isolde pulled me into her arms, I realized tears were streaming down my face. They lied to me, didn't they? Why would they lie to me? Why would they do this to me? If they didn't want to treat me, they could have abandoned me, given me away. Why lie to me? Lie to me for so many years? Julian, don't think about these questions. You can get healthy. That's more important than anything else, you know. I just don't understand. Isolde held me tighter. Then don't think about things that have no meaning. Let's look forward. Don't look back. When the spring blossoms appeared, Isolde came to take me back to New York. By then, I had been safely discharged from the hospital and was recovering well. Her grandmother had been in critical condition a few days prior, and she had flown back overnight to be at the hospital. It wasn't until the old woman pulled through again that she was able to relax. She and I hadn't seen each other for a full 2 weeks. Isolde got out of the car, her arms open, waiting for me. I ran down the steps across the green and yellow garden, running lightly in the spring breeze. For the first time in 21 years, I was running like this. Even the slightly chilly spring wind felt warm. Isolde and I had been married for almost a year, but that night was the first time I saw her truly let herself go. She kissed the scar on my chest. The mark from the surgery was still clear, a little ugly. I didn't want her to see it, and I raised a hand to cover it. But Isolde wouldn't let me. Is it ugly? It's just as captivating as it was that first night. So you were after me from the very beginning? No, much earlier than you think. When was that? Have you seen me before? Julian, are you sure you want to talk about the past with your wife at a time like this? I tried my old trick. She didn't fall for it, of course, but she still stopped at the most intense moment. My heart was beating fast, but it no longer felt like it was being ripped apart. The only thing surging in my chest was an undeniable tide of passion. I wrapped myself around her, lightly biting her jaw. Isolde, you don't have to worry about my health anymore. From now on, you can do whatever you want. I had seen Isolde give a speech at a major business conference. Serious and professional, I had seen her in her office holding global meetings, fluent in English, French, and Cantonese. At home in private, she also had a relaxed, easygoing side. Even the household staff dared to joke with her. But the moment she dropped her smile, everyone around her would fall silent. And the her of this moment. Her eyes held a clear desire and a powerful need to possess. She let herself fall into the passion, falling with me into the overwhelming world of the senses. In the endless pleasure, she seemed even more unrestrained, more invested than I was. Before, I never understood why my own family would treat me that way. Only later did I understand. The 21 years of suffering and unfairness were only to lead me to Isolde Sterling again. Isolde, are you... It was the first time I had asked. I hadn't even finished my sentence, but it was as if Isolde knew what I wanted to ask. Her kiss landed by my ear, her warm, wet fingers tangling tightly with mine. I heard her voice, husky, low, and seductive. I'm crazy about you, Julian.